الحمد لله رب العالمين وأصلي وأسلم على سيدنا وحبيبنا ومنقذنا من الضلال محمد بن عبد الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. الحمد لله رب العالمين نويت التعلم والتعليم والتذكر والتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم والدعاء إلى الهدى والدلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى. We praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this blessing, the blessing of La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and the blessing of seeing another year after the hijrah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam, and particularly here we are in the month of Rabi' al-Awwal, Rabi' al-Anwar, the Rabi' the spring of the hearts and the spring of the lives and the spring of the arwah, in which everything we find outside requires revival, and our hearts also require a revival. And the ihya of the qulub of the mu'mineen, the ihya and the revival of the hearts of the believers, is through the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and an attachment to his beloved Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And so, no greater time, no more honorable time for us to remember these great miracles of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam than this particular age and this particular zaman. So, inshallah, we will be looking at the mu'jizat, the miracles of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. By the, inshallah, the permission of Allah, His power and assistance and support. As, mashallah, Akhuna Malad mentioned, the miracles of the Anbiya, the miracles of the prophets and the messengers. Every prophet that Allah Ta'ala sends, Allah aids him with evidence, with proof, and with a challenge, with a mu'jiza. We'll look at the meaning of mu'jiza as well. But really the essence and the purpose here, the intent of that miracle that Allah aids His Prophet with, is in order to put at rest those who deny the claim of prophethood of that Nabi that Allah sent. So in every age, every generation, Allah sends His messengers, His Rusul. And in every age, in every generation, there are people that prophet is sent to, that they're going to deny his claims to prophethood. Because there's only got one claim. And that claim is a claim to prophethood or messengership. And in order for that prophet to be aided with signs that are going to be displayed apparently before those people, to put their claim at rest, he aids him with a miracle, and that is turning a normal course or activity of affairs in this created universe into a method or a manifestation that goes against what people are normally accustomed to. And so therefore you get the translation of supernatural occurrence. Because normally, naturally, things happen in a certain way. Normally, fire burns, but of course we know it's not innate in fire's essence to burn. But as the scholars of Tawheed mention, that Allah Ta'ala, for instance in fire, creates the effect or the ability for it to burn every single moment. So it's not independently burning without the qudra and the degree of Allah Azza wa Jal. But when the normal course of affairs changes and people witness this in summary is a miracle, and it incapacitates people to do the same. When it incapacitates people to do the same, then this is where it begins to be known as a mu'jiza. And we'll look at the various conditions of this, and also, inshallah, look at some of the selections of the mu'jizat, the miracles of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and mashallah, Daar Ibn Abbas, the last, I think, seminar was actually on the i'jaz of the Quran. Many presentations about different parts of the Quran, different aspects of the Quran, the commentary, the tafsir of the Quran, and the sciences, the jam' the compilation of the Quran, the qira'at, also the renderings or the recitations of the Quran, and the incapacitating nature of the Quran. And this, of course, is the greatest miracle of any prophet that Allah Ta'ala has sent, and the greatest miracle because it is the living, eternal miracle. Living meaning it remains with us. You see, the prophets beforehand, if you want to come and say the miracle of Musa, the miracle of Isa, can you see it? Can you see it in front of you? You've got the miracle of Musa, where's his staff? Where's his asa? Where's his hand that he places under his armpit? The miracle of Sayyidina Isa, where is the healing of the blind and the leper and the bring the dead back to life? The miracle of Sayyidina Ibrahim and the fire not burning when he was thrown into it. These miracles were given to those great prophets and those messengers. However, their miracle was defined or confined to their zaman, to their time, their period of time. Because we know that every prophet was sent to a people, to a land, to a time. However, I was sent to all of humanity. Yes, all of them in their entirety. We haven't sent you except as a rahmah to al-alameen. So therefore the message of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam isn't defined to a specific makan or zaman, specific place or time. Therefore, it must be understood, and it's logical, that his miracle, his greatest miracle, is one that outstrips time and outstrips particular locations. And of course, the greatest of those miracles is the Quran, which you spoke about many months ago. So today, inshallah, we're not going to be focused on the i'jaz of the Quran, the miraculous nature of the Quran, because this, without doubt, is the greatest miracle of Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in all of its aspects, its linguistic aspects and its balaghi aspects, and its rhetoric and its eloquence and its mentioning of future events that were to occur but haven't yet occurred, of historical events where Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was ummi. He was illiterate, he couldn't read nor write. Someone once asked a question, but isn't being illiterate naqs? Isn't it something that brings a person lower in society? We say for every human being, al-ummiya naqsun. في النبي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم كمال. Every other human being illiterate, is weakness, deficiency. But Al-Habib al-A'zam Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم is perfection. How? Because when those who came and claimed, or they want to come and claim, Muhammad learned this in his studies with the priests or the rabbis or the Kohan or the other religious people, or he got them from historical books, or this is when he didn't study sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he didn't read from books. And therefore when Sayyidina Jibreel comes to him in Daar Hira, in the cave of Hira, he says to him, his response, alayhi salatu wa sallam, he says, I'm not one that can read. I'm not one that can read and write. Therefore his ummi, but in Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, it wards off all of those claims, those empty false claims and allegations sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. A miracle. In Arabic, the terminology that is given by the scholars of the Seerah, the scholars of Tawheed, Seerah, the prophetic biography, and Tawheed, theology, and Aqidah, and Creed, is the word mu'jiza. Mu'jiza, you can tell me, what do you call this? Now there's all popping up, these, what do you call HTS centers. What do we call them in Arabic? Daar These were under Daar Ibn Abbas. Don't tell me, what were the HTS, what are they called? Similar word, mu'jiza, ajaza. What do you call a person? The ajuz. What did we just mention before, a couple of minutes ago, about what in English is a big word? It's hard to pronounce. Incapacitating nature of the Quran. In Arabic, what was it? I'jaz al-Quran. Can you see the same three letters are being used in all these words? What are the three letters? Ayn, Jim, and the Zal. These three letters. So these three letters is going to give us hints about what is this mu'jiza actually talking about. What is its intent? What is its definition? If we look to ulama of Tawheed, of the science of Aqidah and creed, they tell us, in one sense, that a mu'jiza is an act of a miraculous nature. Miraculous nature here meaning it goes contrary to the normal, ordinary doings. Goes against the norm, miraculous nature. And it's presented by a prophet. Because it could be presented by any other human being, but we don't call it mu'jiza. Has different categories. It could be presented by someone who claims to be a prophet but isn't a prophet. But this one is not a miracle or a mu'jiza in this technical sense. It could come to a righteous person, a wali of Allah, but it's not called a mu'jiza. It's given a different name, like karama, still supernatural occurrence, but it's not to aid the claim of prophethood. And it's not to ward off the deniers in believing that this person is claiming prophethood, because they're not claiming prophethood. So, act of miraculous nature goes against normal occurrences. Presented by prophets, and it's a challenge of the deniers of the prophecy, meaning the prophecy of that Nabi, to prove their truthfulness. Allah aids this Nabi, aids this prophet, in order to prove his truthfulness and to prove his being a prophet. Because Allah is the one that sends him, Allah is the one that aids him. And this is also a reminder for us in every single age. Those who believe in Allah, وَمَنْ يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. And those who put their true reliance and trust in Allah, فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. Allah is sufficient, enough for them. The like of which human beings are incapable of producing, and this is where we get this mu'jiz, meaning it incapacitates, it makes the other side unable to produce the like thereof. This is the meaning of mu'jiza. But there are conditions for a miracle. For us, or for the scholars to accept that this is considered a miracle. These conditions include: it must be a miraculous act unfamiliar in human laws and norms. For water to flow copiously and abundantly between a person's fingers. You never see this one. You see someone sweating, yes, they're driving what we call riding bike and everything. They'll sweat, yes. But water that is fresh and sweet and can be drunk, this one, it's not normal human laws and norms. It must be done at the hands of a prophet, as we said before. There are people that are going to come, and that did also in the time of Nabi Muhammad ﷺ, and they claim prophet. But sometimes they would come, like Sustenance and Categorizing. He come, he see a well with a bit of water, and he comes and because he heard about the miracles of Nabi Muhammad ﷺ, so he comes and he spits in this well, because he knew that when Muhammad ﷺ, they didn't believe in him. When he spat in the well, it overflowed, became abundant with water, and the Sahaba made wudu from it, and they drank from it, and they gave it to their camels and their beasts and their riding animals, and there's still water, mashallah. So he comes and do the same. But we have a difference here. Yes, you have saliva, but it's different to the saliva of man Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You have human being, yes, but you human being that's not aided by Allah. Muhammad is aided by Allah because he's not only Muhammad ibn Abdullah, he's Muhammadun Rasulullah. Difference. So he comes and he speaks this Musaylama. He's a false prophet. He comes and he speaks, and the water dries up. So he had a murad. His intention was for the water to flow abundantly in the world. But the opposite of his murad, of his intention, of his desire, happened. Right. So that's not, we don't consider this a mu'jiza. Its purpose is to challenge the deniers. Whether a prophet explicitly announces that it's a challenge, or it's implicitly understood from surrounding circumstances. The scholars even of Sirah classify those supernatural occurrences that occurred before the age of 40 of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, before revelation descended upon him. He he still had not been commissioned as a Nabi. Still, he's free and ma'soom from error and sin. However, those supernatural occurrences that occurred before, for instance, at his time of birth, at his wiladah, those when he was young, when he was traveling, like when he traveled to as a agent in the tijara, in the trade of Sayyidatna Khadija before he got married. So Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha, you see Khadija was one of the muwahideen. She was one of the hunafa, still on the deen of the remnants of the traces of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam in Mecca. And she sends one of her servants, Maysara. She says to him, attach yourself to Muhammad, I want you to report back to me, like surveillance. Report back to me everything of his nature. And he comes back, and one of the things that he says is, wherever he was, he would be shaded by a cloud. When he would walk, he would be shaded by a cloud from the intensity of the sun. Now, as rich as you are, as influential as you are in this world, you go out, you don't expect to be shaded by a cloud or the sun. This is something that's supernatural, that moves, right? It moves wherever you are. So this, because it happened before prophethood, the scholars said this, we don't necessarily classify in the category of official mu'jiza, miracle, because there was not yet any claims to prophethood. Yes, it's a supernatural occurrence. And so they call these things like preparatory miracles, irhasat, preparatory miracles, indicating the coming of the news of nubuwwah, of prophethood. Next, it must support and strengthen the prophet's claim to prophecy. And if it contradicts the claim of prophecy, it becomes counter-evidence. For instance, sometimes there will be people that will come and present to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that I won't believe until this lizard believes in you. And so Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam presented to him, and he says, "Who am I?" He says, "You're Muhammad Rasulullah. I believe in Allah, and I believe in you as the messenger of Allah." They do it khalas, he becomes Muslim. But if some man came and asked question to an animal or a plant or any other object, "Am I a prophet?" He says, "No, you're a liar. You're a liar." So he wanted the thing to speak in support of his claim, but now it goes against his claim. So this is it. It becomes counter-evidence. And then it's also necessary that deniers fail to face the challenge or produce the like of a prophet's miracle. As we'll get to, for instance, in Shiqaqul Qamar, the splitting of the moon. And even after the splitting of the moon, at the request of the deniers of Quraysh, they still claim that it was continuous magic. If we look to another definition of miracle, what is a mu'jiza? Rahmatullah alayhi, Shaykh Muhammad Sa'id Ramadan al-Mufti says, in summary, that every supernatural occurrence that appears at the hands of the person who claims prophethood, at the request of the deniers who challenge him, in a way that its appearance affirms his claim to prophethood. This is what a mu'jiza is. This is what a miracle is. And if you look to one of the classical texts of Tawheed, Jawharat al-Tawheed, like the essence or the jewel of creed of theology of Tawheed, by Shaykh Ibrahim al-Aqani, great Maliki scholar, he says in this book, he says, وَمُعْجِزَاتُهُ كَثِيرَةٌ غُرَى. وَمُعْجِزَاتُهُ, and his mu'jizat. Whose mu'jizat? Whose miracles? He's referring to Habib Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And his miracles, كثيرة, they are many. Not just the Quran, not just the splitting of the moon as mentioned in the Quran, but there are many, hundreds of miracles of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that occurred in different parts of his life, before prophethood and after. وَعِزَاتُ كَثِيرَةٌ غُرَى. Ghura here, the ghura is that which is the fringe, or that which is filled with light, that which is radiant. So his miracles are many, and radiant. منها كلام الله معجز البشر. And from amongst his miracles, of course, is the greatest of the miracles, and that is كلام الله, the speech and the word of Allah, that is the Quran. He says معجز البشر. معجز, it incapacitates who? Human beings. Not only does it incapacitate human beings, it incapacitates the ins and the jinn, human beings and the jinn kinds. The miracles of Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. If we were to try and just a very, very quick, simple categorization of some of the miracles, not all, just some of the miracles. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was given the ability by the decree and the permission of Allah Ta'ala to interact with the kawn and the universe around him. You see, scientists these days, all they do is Allah uncovers for them something about that which has already existed, but they don't make any changes. Everything continues in its natural course. Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Allah Ta'ala aided him with these supernatural occurrences. Not in every instance was it he was going to directly respond to those who deny his claim of prophethood. But when the scholars looked at all of these various events in their totality, putting them all together, even if there was no direct response to those who deny him, they say in their totality they'd be considered as miracles. So it's not necessary that every single time someone comes and claims a sign or a proof or an evidence, or they deny his prophethood, he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam produces something. But it becomes a corpus, it becomes a tool, a sign, that any person that comes to know Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam will then be more inclined to accept him. So Hadith sallallahu alayhi wa sallam interacted, and Allah Ta'ala changed the course, the normal, what we call, rules related to plants even. And we might look at some of these as we go on, but plants, nowadays, if you come and you uproot a tree is not an easy task. You've got to get your material, your tools, and uproot the tree, and then you come and you bring the tree over a distance to where you want it. And then to go and re-transplant or restore that tree in the same place where you had taken it out from, it's amaliyah, it's operation, it requires a lot of effort. And yallah, if it's still going to, still going to be alive, there are many risks. But for Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and on different occasions, on one occasion, he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was observed by one of the Sahaba to have gone down a valley, and he was going to answer the call of nature, and there was open space, and so Allah Ta'ala had granted him, there were two trees which he used in order to cover himself from outside. On other occasions, he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam literally called a tree over to him. It uprooted itself. It walked towards him. It testified that he was the messenger of Allah, and then it walked back and it put itself, retransplanted itself back into the earth. Nothing had happened. These were the trees that were alive. And then there were trees that were dead. We think that they were dead. In the masjid of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, they built the masjid with the pillars. Here we have what we call these concrete pillars, isn't it? Or timber pillars. In the days of the Sahaba, their structures, what they would use, the trunks of the palm tree. This had been their pillar, and so this is what they used. When Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would deliver the khutbah to the masjid, to the Sahaba, he would stand by one of those pillars. It's a pillar that everybody called trunk of a palm tree. And at one occasion in Medina, one of the ladies said, "How about we erect for you, construct for you, raised platform, that way when people there, they can see you. Therefore his what you call speech will carry further as well." And so he accepted this idea. And this was, subhanAllah, also an indication of the humility of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. If someone comes to him with a suggestion, he doesn't say, "Ana Nabiullah, Rasulullah." You know it. If Allah wanted a minbar for me, He would have given it to me in the wahi. No. Tawada, humility. Something we learned from Al-Habib sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He accepted this idea with suggestion. And so she had her son build one for him to construct. And when he came to deliver the khutbah, and this hadith is related to what they call daraja al-tawaqq. Tawaqq meaning many Sahaba heard this and they transmitted this and so on. They said that when Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was speaking, they heard in the masjid like a moaning, a groaning, like a crying, literally. Like one of the hadith mentioned, you know, when they said the mother camel, the sheep camel, is giving birth when she's pregnant, the pain that she's going through, this like similar sound, something really painful. And so Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam comes to that same pillar, that same trunk of the palm tree, and in the narrations, he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam speaks to it and he hears from it. And he presents to it an offer. He says, how about I ask Allah to grant you life again, and you can be in one of these orchards, in one of these gardens here in dunya. You'll have roots again, and you'll have branches again, you'll have trees again, you'll bear fruits. Or ask Allah that you be a tree in Jannah that bears fruits, so the awliya, the friends of Allah, the pious people of Allah, they can eat from your fruits. And so it chose the latter. It chose to be a tree in Jannah. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam then instructed that that trunk of that palm tree be buried underneath the minbar. And when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam had comforted this tree, the Sahaba said it changed its sound to be like when the child's far away from the mother, and the mother comes and hugs and embraces and cuddles, you know, like this one. What happens to the baby? Child, oh, he calms down, she calms down, stops crying, stops to worry, everything, all the anxiety gone. And of course, this trunk was anxious, was worried, was stressed. You see, we have stress, isn't it, these days? But these quote-unquote dead, they're not dead. They're all alive. And when Shaykh Hassan al-Basri, when he mentions this narration, he says, if this was a piece of wood that cried and longed to be close to Rasulullah, well, what are we talking about closeness? They're in the same masjid. Rasulullah's in the masjid at the front. And this Sariya, this post, is also in the masjid. It's literally maybe a few arms length away. But that physical distance, it wasn't used to from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He says, Hassan al-Basri, if this was the yearning and the hope, longing of this piece of wood to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I mean, what should our longing, our yearning be, our connection be to him sallallahu alaihi wasallam? So the plants, subhanAllah, the animals also have a hand, and Rasulullah has a hand, a state and a connection, a relationship with the animals. From we have the miracles here, and by the way, the miracles of all the prophets, every prophet that Allah sent and Allah gave the miracles, Allah gave a similar miracle to Nabi Muhammad sallallahu but was raised an arm. Greater than the miracle that was given to the previous prophet. So Sayyidina Sulaiman as well was given the ability to listen to the language and to understand and to communicate with the animals. Likewise, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was given this ability. He walks into a garden once in Medina, and there's a camel. And he comes to this camel, and he says, who's this camel belong to? One of the men there in the orchard, he says, he owns up. Rasulullah says, this camel complained to me. Rasulullah heard her speaking to him. He says, this camel complained to me. He says that its owner puts on too much load for him that it can bear, and doesn't give enough food. Before the days of what we call animal rights, isn't it? People going crazy now. Animal rights, animal rights. Animal rights and human rights doesn't matter. Human rights is selective anyhow. Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was the one who had that genuine concern for animals even. And so that man therefore designated that particular camel no longer be to a camel, he'll come and bring its food and comfortable and everything, take care of all of its needs for the rest of its life. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam had a relationship with animals, and also we mentioned the event and the miracle of the lizard testifying in the presence of Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that he was indeed the Prophet of Allah, and that hunter that had captured this animal then ended up believing in the prophethood of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. But there's also emotions, feelings. It's not just about inanimate objects changing, which we're also going to get to, but there's feelings. Who here can go and say when they go to what we call mountains, like, I don't know, mountains here, says, oh, this mountain loves me. Someone goes to Mount Kosciuszko, says, this mountain loves me and I love it. Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam had a relationship even with mountains. He says, Uhud. And by the way, Uhud, the mountain of Uhud, is one of the mountains in Jannah. One of the mountains in Jannah. Just like we have rivers in Dunya that are also rivers of Jannah, also we have mountains that are also mountains in Jannah. And some of the scholars said that mountain of Uhud in Jannah will see the same. This is a replication of that mountain of the eternal mountain in Jannah. He says, Uhud. He says, Uhud. Jabal. Yuhibbuna wa nuhibbu. That loves us and we love it. It loves me and I love it. And when the scholars of the hadith, they reflected on this hadith, they said, because here, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam started with indefinite article. What definite article? He said, Uhud. He didn't say the Mount of Uhud. He just said Uhud is a mountain, is a Jabal. He didn't say Uhud is the mountain. He said Uhud is a mountain that loves us and we love it. They said it's also, we can interpret from this hadith that there were other mountains that loved Rasulullah, and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam also loved it. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam had a relationship even with those rocks, with those inanimate objects. The celestial objects, and as we'll get to, the splitting of the movement of Quraysh. We'll speak about that later. The food, and the barakah of the food, and the blessing of the food. Sometimes Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would ask if they were in a journey for every person to come and to bring what they had, and they place it into cloth, and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would make dua for his barakah and his blessing and abundance, or there'd be grain, or there would be a little bit of water, perhaps in some water skin, or there'd be no water left in the water skin, or there'd be little butter or ghee left in the container, or the leather skin that they placed this on. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, simply by his dua for it will become abundant. Or the Sahabi, say the Daar Ibn Abbas, who when they were digging the khandaq, the trench around one of the sides of Medina, some 2+ kilometers long, this trench, one of the days in which they were digging, it was cold, they're digging all day. The Sahaba said sometimes for 3 days we wouldn't have anything into our mouths. And so, one time, Rasulullah had split the Sahaba into groups of about 10 during the digging of the trench. And the trench was wide and was deep. And from time to time they would come back to Rasulullah because they get to like a rock or boulder in the trench. They're striking, they don't want to move, don't want to break. So they go to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And he comes, on this occasion he comes and he goes down into the trench and he strikes it and it turns to dust and it shatters. Sayyidina Jabir comes and he says, I observed Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam on this occasion. He says, and I saw that he had tied 2 stones to his tummy, indicating that he was extremely hungry. And in fact, on previous occasions during the digging of the trench, one Sahabi comes to Rasulullah, he says, I'm having a tough time, no food. And he lifts up his upper garment to show Rasulullah that he's got 1 stone tied to his chest. And so Rasulullah lifts up his rida, his upper garment, and he reveals 2 stones. If you're hungry, you're double hungry. But look at the rahmah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam for this Sahabi. He didn't say anything. You're complaining about being hungry, I'm twice as hungry as you. No! Alayhi salatu wa salam rahmah. Is a mercy without even him putting that Sahabi down or making him feel as though this is not your maqam to come to speak and to complain. You're doing it tough. I'm also doing it tough. We do. But back to Sayyidina Jabir's observation. So when he sees Rasulullah is hungry, Rasulullah doesn't complain. We go back to his wife at home. And Jabir's house, if you go to the area of the Khandaq, that's where he lives, Sayyidina Jabir. And he goes to his wife, he says, what is there, what do you have? He says, we've got a sheep and we've got some dough. Just one lot of dough. And so he goes back to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and he says to him, I invite you and some of the Sahaba to come have meal at my place. And so Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam announces to all of the Ahl, the entire Sahaba, they were digging. Day in, day out at the trench. Some 950,000 of them. It says today we're going to go share a meal with Jabir at his place. And so he says, gives instructions to Jabir. He says to him, he says, go, prepare the meal, prepare the stew, the pot that you put the what you call meat on, but don't lift the lid yet. Then you don't start serving it. And the dough, prepare the dough, but don't start baking. Meaning wait till I come. And go hire another person to help your wife with the baking of the dough, of the bread. Imagine. Jabir's thinking, it's just one little bit of dough. I'm going to go hire another full-time baker to help my wife. But look at the Sahaba. See, Sahaba was Sahaba, we are we. Because there's someone like us, we question. Why am I going to go and have to go and spend more money on hiring someone? This little bit of dough like this. This is our mind here. But the mind of Sahaba, they are different. They are on a totally different level. And so when Rasulullah comes, he comes to the stew, the pot of the meat and the soup. He stirs, he makes dua, he takes the bread, he gives to Jabir, he bake it. He says to Jabir, call in Sahaba, 10 at a time. They come, prepares the bowl of soup for them, the bread, they finish eating, out they go. Call in the next 10. He prepares, it's baked, pours it out, prepare the next 10. Until Sayyidina Jabir says, all of the Al-Khandaq, they had their fill. And who was left? Us. We came, we ate, and still the pot was as it was, and the bread, that little piece of dough of bread, was still as it was, like it was untouched. By the barakah of Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, reminding us, O ummah of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, kun ma'allah wa la tuballi. Be with Allah and don't worry. Because if we focus on 1 plus 1 always equals 2, there's a little joke they used to give in school. They'll ask you, 1 plus 1 was equal? You say 2. And they say, no, 1 plus 1 equals window. Or 1 plus 1 and 1 and 1 is what we call 11. This again, meaning sometimes, subhanAllah, yes, not just this and this makes this. But when we understand that Allah is the one that changes the affairs in this created universe, everything becomes possible. But then, you see, another instance where Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, also about food. Now you're getting hungry. Where Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was presenting ناولني ذراع. He says, please pass me the shank of the animal. Shank is the front leg. Rasulullah used to prefer from the animal the front leg, the shank, and the shoulder part of it. So he says, give me the shank. So the Sahabi comes and he gives him the front legs of the animal. And then Rasulullah, second time, he says, no, wouldn't it be right? He says, pass me the shank in next one. But there's no numbers that are mentioned in the request. Pass me the front leg. So the Sahabi passes him the front leg. This is the second one in front of him. After some time, Al-Habib sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, for a third time, he says, now wouldn't it be right? He says, pass me the front leg of the animal. The Sahabi turns to Rasulullah and says, the sheep or the goat, and he has two front legs. Rasulullah says, if you had been silent, you would have had a third, and you would continue to find as long as you were silent. That's his fault. That's the miracle ended. The turning of natural course of affairs, when your limited human mind comes to intervene, story is over. And you no longer witness. Why? Because you are facing Al-Habib sallallahu alayhi wa sallam with your aql, not with your qalb. If you face with your intellect, the intellect will never be able to comprehend because it's mahdur, it's limited. But the qalb, the heart, this is open. Why? Because the nazar of Allah, the gaze of Allah is not upon that. It's not upon the intellect, but it's upon what? The qalb. And if the gaze of Allah is upon the heart, then that's where the miraculous affairs will happen. Converting elements. Converting one element to another. One object to another. This we'll talk about a little later. As well as organ restoration. People nowadays, they boast we can do all of these different types of surgery. But no one can do surgery like Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam with his miraculous affairs with the aid of Allah. In the midst of battle, in the midst of a battle in a ma'araka, someone comes and an arrow has shot his eyeball so it's hanging on his cheek. Where does he go? There's no first aid. There is first aid actually. The first and only aid is Muhammad. So that's his first aid. For us to understand when things are tough, we go to the bed, then we go to this aid, then we go to this. No problem. This is the alam al-dunyawi asbab. Yes. But there is a man, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, if you come to him, he will solve all of your affairs. And when you attach yourself to him, in mahabba, in love and devotion, the sour will become sweet. The dry will become wet. Alayhi salatu wassalam. We'll talk a bit about that one later. Splitting of the moon. So when Quraysh in Mecca, they demanded, they requested, show us a sign, show us a sign. And so one of the signs that they requested is the splitting of the moon. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam actually takes condition from them. So if I show you this one, you believe? Yes! But in fact, these were just empty, false claims. There was no genuine intent for belief. And miracles are actually dangerous. Because the moment a miracle comes to a prophet or messenger, at the request of a disbelieving, denying people, and they continue to disbelieve after witnessing miracle, their punishment will be even more severe. And so Allah Ta'ala recounts for us the splitting of the moon after أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اقتربت الساعة. In order for us to understand, it's not about moons and it's not about splitting, it's not about changing of affairs and miracles and this and that and dazzling decoration. No! اقتربت الساعة, meaning the purpose behind my sending miracles to my Habib Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so you know this reality, this haqiqah. That's it. What is it? The time has approached. When the iqamah comes, and then you say, Hayya al-salah, Hayya al-falah, Allah, la ilaha illallah. Iqamah. Iqamah, we add, what is it? قد قامت الصلاة. قد هنا تفيد التقريب. التقريب meaning it's coming close. It's coming close. It's coming close, meaning the salah is just about to be established, meaning few seconds, few moments. So just like we said, قد قامت الصلاة, قد قامت الصلاة, لا إله إلا الله, استووا استقيموا وارحموا الله أكبر. This is literally that quick, yes. The hour has approached. How old is planet Earth? How old is the universe? I think they say 4.5 billion years, right? 4.5 billion years, if we say. Allahu A'lam. The last 1,400 years, or 1,400 mathematicians, numerator, what do you call line? Denominator. 4.5 with many zeros. 4.5 billion years. What do you get? First, nothing. Negligible. So small. So insignificant. Meaning, if from the time that Allah created the universe to the time of the last hour, just imagine. Because the universe has it got a beginning? Yes. Has it got an end? Yes. Fine. Let's consider that time as being a long road. From the east to the west. No, that's west, isn't it? From this side to this side. Long road. That's the beginning of the universe, that's the end of the universe. When is the Risala of Nabi Muhammad come? Whereabouts in that road? We come back there. That's for 4.5 billion years. Huh? It's going to there, going to come here, going to come here. Where's it going to come? Maybe behind the tiles. Behind the tiles. How are you going to get it? So close to the end. So close. So negligible that distance. Therefore, Allah Ta'ala is saying, the hour has come, meaning it's nearly time, compared to the length of the age of the universe. وَانشَقَّ الْقَمَرُ. And the qamar has been split in half, and this is the miracle here that Allah Ta'ala gave to His Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, such that when you go to Mecca now, you see Kaaba, you see there's you outside the Kaaba, inside the Kaaba still, you see that there is huge, you can't actually see the mountain, but you see large building and like a huge concrete retaining wall with these big concrete stones. That there is Jabal Ibn Abbas. It was on that mountain that half of the moon hovered over on that particular night. Jabal Ibn Abbas. And the kuffar of Quraysh saw with their own eyes on that night. وَانشَقَّ الْقَمَرُ وَإِنْ يَرَوْا آيَةً يُعْرِضُوا. And if they were to see a sign, proof, what's their response? They turn away. What do they say? سِحْرٌ يَقُولُ وَيَقُولُ سِحْرٌ مُسْتَمِرٌ. They go back to their old ways. After they've seen the miracle, and they say that it is just magic, just sihr, continuous whole, same as we used to before, and they come back. So really it wasn't about asking for a sign, but they're just following their own ahwa and their desires. وَكُلُّ أَمْرٍ مُسْتَقِرٌ. And every matter will be settled, meaning they cannot get away with this. وَقَدْ جَاءَهُم مِّنَ الْأَنْبَاءِ مَا فِيهِ مُزْدَجَرٌ. And even though the stories of destroyed nations that have already come to them are a sufficient deterrent, حِكْمَةٌ بَالِغَةٌ. This is great wisdom. فَمَا تُغْنِ النُّذُرُ. But of course, these warnings, they come to them, but they are bent on denying the truth. Well, inshallah, there are many miracles related to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam coming, being approached by a Bedouin Arab, saying that our animals and our stock and our plants and everything, it's drought and there's no water, and so Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam makes dua for the rain. And the rain comes down. For a whole week it continues raining. A week later the same man comes and he says we're being flooded and everything's being drowned and Rasulullah then makes dua for the amendment of the location of the pouring down of the water. And Rasulullah, we spoke about some of his miracles with the animals. Before we finish, we also wanted to touch on the operation of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam when Sayyidina Qatada in the battle of Uhud. One of his tasks that he took upon himself was to protect the Habib sallallahu alayhi wa sallam from enemy arrows. So he was protecting Rasulullah with his face. And one of those arrows comes and it strikes him in his eye. It gouges his eyeball out of its socket and is holding his eyeball as it's hanging down his cheek, down his face. During the midst of that battle, he comes to his Habib sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Rasulullah sees. And Rasulullah says, and he asks Rasulullah for the restoration of his eye. Rasulullah gives him the option. Either you have sabr and you will have Jannah, or I restore your eyesight for you, I restore the eye for you. And the Sahabi chose the latter, and he said also, ask Allah for me to be given Jannah. And Al-Habib sallallahu alayhi wa sallam took the eye of Qatada and he placed it back in his socket. And he made dua that it be restored and that he be given normal eyesight. And later on, Qatada would say that whenever there would be a disease like conjunctivitis, we call it nowadays, that would afflict his other eye, it would never come in this eye that was restored by Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah, protected, preserved. No eye drops, no medicine, no nothing. Why? Allah, once the hand of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam comes into contact with an organ of any human being, Allah says it is protected and it is preserved. In changing one object to another, during one battle of Badr, I think it was, or another, one Sahabi comes and he's fighting the enemies in combat with his sword. And with the intensity of the fighting, his sword breaks. Allah, you don't have blacksmith with you. You don't have superpower for replenishing of supplies, but you go to one man. And this is the habit that continues to be repeated by the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala. In times of drought, in times of difficulty, in times of abundant rain, in times of no food, in times of no water, in times of midst of battle, you come to one man, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The Sahaba came to that man and their problems were solved. And by Allah, if today we come to that same man sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, our problems will be solved. And so Rasulullah sees a twig, a branch, or a tree. He says, "Khudh, take this and fight with it." What's our response? Isn't it? Branch, twig, wood, sword, steel, bit, arrows, bows, spears. How am I going to? Again, that's why they are Sahaba, we are we. Because they had this full emotion in Al-Habib sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, full taslim. Whatever he gives them, they don't reject. And so as soon as he takes from the blessed hand of Al-Habib sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that branch turns into an unsheathed, glowing, sparkling sword that he fights the kuffar in that battle, and he leaves it with him in subsequent battles that he continues to. This is the reality that we live today. The miracles, yes, they are wonderful stories. They are beautiful stories, and there are many more. This is only really just a couple. But if we take that same approach to these great events between the Sahaba, between Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, between inanimate objects, between Rasulullah, between water and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, even that water that flowed from the fingers of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam when he placed his hand in a pot or placed his hand in well. The scholar said that the water that flowed from between the fingers of Rasulullah is even greater than the water of Zamzam. We know Zamzam, whatever you have intention for Zamzam. You see people go for Hajj and for Umrah, they shower with Zamzam, they take their kafan, their burial shroud, they're washing it in Zamzam, everything, Zamzam. The water that comes from the body of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. You see, the Sahaba, they were given that gift and that opportunity to witness these, to be immersed in these, to love these, to respect these. We can remember those great stories, but we can also apply those lessons in our age. When we're faced with lack of abundance, when we're faced with qillah, littleness, we call minimal resources, you cannot get more minimal than a stick in the face of a thriving enemy. But when that is attached to Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, it becomes abundant, and it becomes active, and it becomes powerful. And likewise our ulum, and our sciences, and our knowledge, and everything that we take in this dunya, our food even when one man came and he ate with Rasulullah in front of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he came, before he had accepted Islam, he came and he took one serving, and a second serving, and a third serving, up to 7 servings, and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the next day, or later on, the same man comes after him announcing his Islam, and he only took that one serving, and he says, the kafir, the disbeliever, eats with 7 intestines, but the mu'min eats with 1. So when we are connected to Allah and Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, even that which appeared to be a lot, we no longer need it, because we know where to direct our efforts and where to derive benefit in our dunya. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to grant us connection to these great lessons that we learn from the miracles and the mu'jizat of Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And as he was able to bring by the permission of Allah life to that which was dead, to communicate. You see, Daar Ibn Abbas, ادعو إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة. Allah Ta'ala says, قل هذه سبيلي أدعو إلى الله على بصيرة أنا ومن اتبعني. He says, my way, I call to Allah, I invite to Allah with insight, myself and those who follow in my way. And so that is the path of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and it's there for us to follow. May Allah grant us that ability and opportunity in Rabi' al-Awwal, in Rabi' al-Thani, and in the rest of the months of the year, of this Hijri year. Amin ya Rabbil Alameen.